From the dawn of the spoken word, storytelling has been the backbone of human culture, warning of looming dangers and evoking our most personal fears. What you're about to hear are the real-life experiences of everyday people, brave enough to share their terrifying tales. Tales where the horror hits close to home. I'm your host, Danny. Welcome to the Hometown Horrors Podcast. Listen if you dare. Ladies and gentlemen, we are the Hometown Horrors Podcast. Welcome back. Hart D. Fisher, as I live and breathe. How are you doing, man?
Dude, it was kind of fun. The last time we did the show with you, I listened to it on the car ride down to Chicago. I really enjoyed listening to it that way, and I thought it was a really good episode.
Yeah, it came out really good. You're one of the first people I've had on the show that, is accustomed to talking long form, like whether it's storytelling or just riffing, and I didn't even need to say anything, man.
I'm a professional. I've interviewed like 250 people at least doing all that. You get pretty good at it. A lot of podcasts I come on, the hosts are boring as fuck. You know what I mean? Like, they're boring, and I have to kind of take over. My guys in Ireland that do a show called Gorecast, they're great. Their show is fantastic, but they give bad interviews. You know what I mean? They're not real adept at steering the guests.
Yeah.
Keeping them from pontificating too long.
And that's also where my show shines in the editing room.
That's the thing for me doing like interviews with TV. We always shot with two cameras, so I could be able to cut out the
Yeah, and I didn't realize that that's what the alternate angle camera views were for, is cutting out junk content.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's for. With American Horrors, I made a directing decision that we weren't going to do any fucking interviews unless I had two cameras. And I like the fact that when I'm doing your show, I'm not concerned with picture. It's a huge relief. I could just focus on our conversation and talk to you. Whereas I find if I'm on camera, it's automatic. I slip into, hi, I'm Hart D. Fisher from American Horrors. How are you today? I start becoming more animated, and I am focused a little bit more on my visual because I'm a director. So I really do prefer the old-fashioned phone interviews like we're doing right now.
Yeah. I've done a number of Zoom calls in the last year, and I always just get caught up in looking at my own reflection and being like, oh, shit. I look horrible.
And you know what I had to do? I started wearing sunglasses because the viewer can't see where my eyes are. And they can't see that my eyes are looking a little over here or looking a little over there. There's a person I want to hook you up with that does ghost tours out here in Lake Geneva. Her name is Rita Ray Moore, and she does a bunch of ghost tours through Lake Geneva. They just did a segment on her about Wisconsin. They did a little TV segment on her, and she's well-spoken, and she's pretty cool. So I'm going to definitely try to hook you up with Rita.
Yeah, I'm guessing she has a ton of stories of her own just doing the tours.
Yeah, definitely, because one of the places that she would tour was the place of my first film festival. The American Horrors Film Fest was at the Lake Geneva Theater that was notoriously haunted. And a buddy of mine, one of my best friends here, was the manager at this theater back in like the 90s. And there was a period of time where Trike was homeless and he was sleeping behind the screen on a couch, living out of the theater. And he was like eating popcorn. And he's like, man, I heard some crazy stuff in there. And apparently I was told that someone had hung themselves in the theater. You know, that kind of energy always kind of leaves a mark on the world.
Yeah, the comedy club that Joe Rogan used to frequent a lot in California, I forget what it's called, Comedy Store?
Oh, the Ice House?
Maybe the Ice House, too. I think it applies to a lot of different comedy venues that they used to be mob-owned. So you'd have people performing up top, and in the basement you'd have someone getting like the cement slippers or getting like a tune-up, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It carries a lot of energy, and people that were at the Comedy Store at night when it was all closed down and dark would have crazy stories about things happening there.
Wow. Yeah, I've been to the Comedy Store. You know, I like stand-up comedy a lot, and I saw Rogan at the Ice House one time in Pasadena. LA's got a lot of interesting energy. It was around the year 2000, and my girlfriend was raped and murdered when I was making my first film, The Garbage Man, and it was a sex crime. So it was a rape murder, and I was in the middle of doing the Dahmer books, and I was in the middle of the Jeffrey Dahmer controversy. So this thing happened with her where she got killed, and there were 3 different murder trials. It took 10 years to keep this killer in jail. They kept doing different weird legal things, like to make it a test case involving jury selection and other crap like that. And it was a really ugly decade of my life. And I was getting ready to go testify because the guy had beaten her up, and his defense was she's into rough sex and I'm the guy on the side. So I had to testify like about our sex life and stuff. It was really grueling, and I was preparing myself mentally to fly out from LA to do the last murder trial, and it was raining out. I have a tendency when the rain comes, I like to go take a walk and clear my head. So I'm there and my head is in this dark space, and something hit me from behind. I was standing on a street corner looking at my house. It felt like a dog hit me in the back of the leg. Like, say, a pit bull or a German shepherd walks across the back of your legs. I looked around and there's nothing there. And it's got me in the back of the leg so good that I literally almost fell over. And that kind of thing has happened to me at different times in my life. I don't have an explanation for it. But then there was another one pretty much around the same kind of timeline. It was Christmas, and I was with my late wife, Waka. We had just started dating, and we went and saw Lord of the Rings in Pasadena, and we had an argument. And when we got home, and parked, my house is on a hill. So I'm at the lower end of the hill, and I go to get out of the car, and I open the door, and I'm driving an 83 Chevy Impala. Anybody who's ever seen a cop film from the 80s has seen this car. Powder blue. It was my Aunt Ruth's car. I got it from her for like $2,500. It only had 30,000 miles on it. I love this car. And so I'm the driver, so I'm opening the door, and it's opening out into the street. Now, I'm tall, so I kind of got to dip and duck my head out to get out the door. So I'm leaning forward. My head is out. My foot is on the street, and the door is open. And the next thing I know, I'm sitting in the seat looking straight ahead, and I'm wondering, why am I in the car again? And I look over at my wife, and her eyes are bulging out of their head as she's looking at me in abject horror. And that's when I heard, bang! This car flew down the hill and drove through my door. The big-ass Cutlass whacked through the door, and it tore off the Crease Classic logo from the side of the car. And if my head had been there, I'd be dead. The car took off, and I jumped out of the car and ran down the street after him. Waka was like, I've never seen you move that fast. Well, years of martial arts will do that to you. I've got pretty good reflexes. So we call the cops come, and the officer's like, do you know how lucky you are? Because the guy went right through the door, and I had to yank my foot back in because it whipped through this blur of motion, and heard this screech of the metal across the inside of the door. And then I yanked my foot in because that door came swinging back and whanged into the car, and it could have easily broken my leg. And I was like kind of in shock, and I'm like, yeah, I am lucky. And we went inside, and we sat down on the couch, my wife and I. And we're both like, holy shit, can you believe that just happened? Oh, my God. And she looks at me and she goes, I thought you were getting mugged. It looked like a physical person tackled you into the car, and I thought you were getting mugged because we lived in a dangerous neighborhood. And I didn't know what to think about that because I have no memory of how I went from exiting the vehicle to sitting in the seat. I've had that kind of thing happen to me several times. You know what I mean? Like, holy shit, that was close. I've had some really close calls on the highway. I mean, like, oh my God, close, where your hands are shaking. So my friends have said, Hart, you think you've got bad luck, but brother, you don't have a guardian angel. You got a squad. You got a squad of guardian angels. The shit that happens to you, dude, and the way that you manage to just barely avoid any real major destruction.
It seems like the invisible hand of fate is working really hard to just nudge you in different directions, usually out of harm's way.
Generally speaking, yeah. I've been in some really tight situations. I had a really scary encounter with the Mexican mafia in LA one time, and I was in a locked room where I should not have been. It was bad. I barely got out of that one. But I've been in a lot of weird car wrecks, too. I'm in Dallas, Texas for my cousin's wedding, and we ended up involved in a 60-mile-an-hour wreck on the highway going from the airport in a blue super shuttle van. The tire ripped off of it, and it was spinning up into the air. And I was crammed into the back of this thing because I was sitting on the edge of the seat, and there wasn't any room left for a seatbelt. The fucking van was like 6 feet off the ground, flying across a 4-lane highway towards the guardrail where it was going to tip and go into the culvert like 40 feet down below. And my brother is like, Hart's dead. He doesn't have his seatbelt on. He's dead. And Adam goes straight up into the ceiling, and I end up flying around the inside of the van. I'm flat on my back on the ceiling. Everything's flying around. I bashed my head off the old lady next to me, who ended up going to the ER. And there was two thoughts that popped into my head. The first thought was, I'm fucked. Second thought was, I'm going to find out what glass tastes like. And then we almost went over, and then the van kind of settled back, and I was comforting the little lady next to me, and she's crying, and then the van caught on fire, and then I had to get her out of there. I came out of that with a bruise and a couple scratches.
Yeah, that's
People
amazing.
next to me, they went to the ER.
I wonder if it had something to do with you not wearing the seatbelt, because sometimes like skydivers that pass out in the sky and land like plummeting from that height are okay. I think it's just because their muscles are relaxed, they don't tense up, so they get less damage than they do anticipating the impact.
What had happened was I was all the way in the back of the van, and the tire was making terrible racket, and the driver said, "Oh yeah, that sounds terrible, but it looks worse. This is the last van. If I didn't pick up this van, I wouldn't be working today." And shortly after that, the tire ripped off.
Jesus Christ.
And I don't know how the fuck we got airborne, but the witnesses watched us fly across 4 lanes, 6 feet up off the ground. And it's in the middle of rush hour traffic. Do you know what I mean?
Good Lord, yeah.
Oh, God. It was crazy. And here I am. And I've had a lot of these kinds of things. First time I was ever in an airplane, I jumped out of it. And I nearly landed in power lines.
Parachute, right?
Skid into the base and, yeah, parachute.
Just wanted to make sure.
I skidded into the base of the telephone pole like I was sliding into home plate at a baseball game. It was a single engine Cessna, and they had taken all the seats out of it. So you got the jump master, and I'm there with all my guys from my Taekwondo club. And I'd never been in a plane. And so I'm up there with the head instructor, Fred, and I'm up there with my little brother, Adam, and my best friend from high school, John. And you had to kind of climb out onto the wing of the plane, and you're hanging onto the strut because it's static line jump. You're hooked in. So they tell you to come out there. You're hanging on to the wing of the plane, man. And I'm hearing James Bond music in my head. Because your feet are flying behind you. And then the jump master finally goes, "Okay, 3, 2, 1, go." And I was laughing and having so much fun. And I just let go of that plane. I went, "Hasta la vista, motherfucker." The jump master looked over at my brother and said, "That is the craziest motherfucker I've ever seen jump out of a plane." I was okay. I mean, it was beautiful. I had a good time, and I didn't land in the power line.
Yeah, well, there's a little bit of risk in everything. Might as well do something badass.
Right? You know, once I had a wife, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to skydive anymore. This is no more.
Yeah, I've never been that kind of person. I know that you get this huge rush, and it's very life-affirming. It's just, I don't know what I'd get from it.
It's unreal. My friend went before I did. And he was another guy from the Taekwondo school. And Dennis was one of those unflappable guys. He was always calm, always calm. And so he went skydiving. He's like, "Hart, I wasn't nervous at all until I got in the doorway. I froze. I couldn't move." And I was like, "Really, Dennis?" He's like, "Yeah, I don't know why." And so when I went, I don't know why I wasn't scared. I wasn't. You know, all my other friends were scared, and I was fucking with everybody. I was fucking with everybody so bad. My head instructor, Fred, we're eating lunch. He's like, "When we get back to the dojo, I'm going to beat the shit out of you." And then he didn't say anything else. And I calmed down a little after that, and I got decent.
You know what it is? I think it's sometimes invincibility is a mindset. I think that if you think you're going to succeed, that energy you have about you will just carry you through. And it's easy to have that when you're younger. When you feel the creaks and groans in your legs when you get up in the morning, you're kind of past that point in your life.
I'll tell you, dude, I don't feel like I'm an old man, but I take my martial arts seriously. So I stretch all the time. Like I try to stretch out before I go to bed at night. I take a lot of hardcore vitamin supplements because my wife had cancer. So everything we did for her health care, I did too. And her cancer had a 50-50 chance of coming back. And everybody she was in the hospital with died within a year. Everybody she was in the hospital with died within a year. And I actually was able to help extend her life so she lived 12 years instead of 5.
I mean, even just having that camaraderie of like, I'll do everything with you just so you don't feel alone in this process is probably huge.
Mm-hmm. And I'm around a lot of high energy people. So I hang out with a lot of military people, a lot of war veterans. For some reason, cops seem to gravitate to me. You know, if I'm sitting at a bar, sooner or later, I'll end up like, oh, hi. Oh, you work with the teams in Chicago. Okay. How's it going? You know what I mean? Or,
Yeah.
oh, you used to be a motorcycle cop in Milwaukee. This guy's like 6'4", and all of a sudden we're smoking cigars in the beer garden and just talking, you know, and he's telling me different stories about being a motorcycle cop in Milwaukee. And these kinds of folks just gravitate to me. I don't always know why. I do have PTSD. You know, I've had a pretty violent life and I'm pretty open about it, you know, and it's scary sometimes, you know, and I have a doctor that I see and she's really helped me understand a lot about that stuff. I didn't know I had PTSD. I just thought it was crazy.
Yeah, I think that's the same for a lot of dudes. They're used to white knuckling their way through most of life.
Yeah, that's how it was. Grin and bear it. Just grin and bear it, motherfucker.
You gotta do what you gotta do. Keep the show going.
Yeah, because I'm from the south side of Chicago. You know, I grew up with that kind of blue collar mentality of hard scrabble and pull yourself up by your britches, and you got to find your own way out of trouble because trouble will always come looking for you. I used to laugh at people that say they're safe because they lived in a nice neighborhood. I'm like, bad guys have cars, and bad guys go where money is so they can steal it. And then there's also a certain amount of class warfare going on and anger. I grew up poor, powdered milk kind of stuff, wearing your winter coat in the house. And I thought that was normal. I thought I was middle class because my folks owned a house. And I thought I was middle class if I went to college. And that's when I found out I was a bit of a thug from the south side of Chicago.
Womp womp.
But it served me well. I've got so many of these narrow escapes from death stories. I was on a lecture tour in Mexico City, and I was down there with horror author Joseph M. Monk and Krista Faust. And she wrote a bunch of the Crow adaptations in paperback. She was a horror author, and she had introduced me to my wife. You know, my wife had been a fetish model. So we go down to Mexico, and we did a lecture tour through various universities and various comic conventions. You know, I got to be in the same building as Vicente Fox when he was president of Mexico. That was pretty cool and pretty intense because I'd never seen so many army dudes in one spot. It was a hell of an adventure. It was really amazing. And we got to stay in this lovely hotel, and the owner of the hotel liked entertainment, you know, like, oh, you guys are here for the comic convention. And oh, you do movies. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm selling my movie, The Garbage Man, you know, and so I'm talking to him, and we went out and had a nice night, and we get back to the hotel because our translator, her name was Libertad. And Libertad was a very tall Mexican woman that had an upside-down cross painted on her forehead. She talked about getting chased out of a village with people throwing rocks at her for having the upside-down cross on her forehead. So I'm there, and we went out, and we had a really great time. It was lovely to get to know the Mexican people and like go out to their bars and clubs. Not the tourist shit, like go hang out with regular people and go eat at the restaurants they eat at, you know? So we get back to the hotel, and the band's breaking down, and the owner's there, and he's there with another dude, and dude looks like something out of Central Casting, out of Jefe. He didn't have cowboy hat on or anything. He had like a suit jacket, dark glasses, and he was quiet. He was drinking the most expensive tequila in the hotel. And we sat down, and Joe Monks is blind. He's a blind author. And then Krista was a really hot goth chick, dominatrix type of chick. And so we cut quite a path.
God bless.
You got me running around, so I'm kind of the seeing eye dog to the blind guy. You know what I mean? He had to put his hand on my shoulder most of the time. And so we're there, and we're hanging out, and we're talking. And he was from Valley Stream in New York, and he sounded just like Mo, the bartender from The Simpsons. And he's one of those lost 1950s kids that grew up at his parents' house and believes that marijuana is the gateway drug. And if you legalize marijuana, well, all crime's going to go through the roof. That kind of guy.
Yeah.
So we're down there, and we're having a good time, and he's bringing out bottles of champagne, Moet Chandon. I mean, at one point, I get up to go to the bathroom. We start going. I go in the bathroom, and he starts doing coke. So now every time I get up to go to the bathroom, he goes in there and starts doing lines of coke. And I'm not into that stuff. That's not my jam. I feel that those kinds of chemicals lead to violence, so I try to avoid them. And he's just off. He's like, hey, you want some? And I'm like, no, I'm cool. Oh, man, I used to get Stephen Bauer heroin. And I'm like, I'm fine, man. I just want to go pee. So we're there, and during the conversation, he gets amped up, and he crushes his champagne glass, and it shatters in his hand. He starts laughing and he starts carving an upside down cross on his forehead, going, I want to be like you guys. And we're all going, no, it's cool, man. You don't need to do that. He's got these scars on his arm, and he's talking about how he owns lions. And he's like, I've got these lions, and we don't use cattle prods on my lions. We use whips in the chairs. You want to come over and see my lions? They got my arm pretty good, this one. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'd like to come see the lions. Fuck yeah, I'm in. Not tonight, though. It's late. So, fuck yeah, I'm cool. And my friends are all like, no lions, no. Because he's sitting there with his fucking blood running down from his head, right?
Yeah, I don't know how the lions are going to respond to that.
So the guy in the corner starts talking in Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish. And he says he wants to ask us how we feel about American drug policy because he's an import-exporter out of Juarez.
Red flag.
So we're talking, and I think that a lot of drug policy should be legalized. I think marijuana should be legal. I think a lot of this stuff should be legalized and just tax it and keep an eye on it,
Make sure it's properly regulated, safe for consumption, and then you cut out a lot of shady drug dealers. Yeah.
Yeah, you get rid of the fentanyl, get rid of all that garbage that's killing everybody. That's my feeling about it. Now, Joe is radically the opposite, but he's not going to tell this fucking guy this because I shit you not. When this guy started to talk, it sounded like an alligator was talking. And I swear the temperature in that room dropped like 5 to 10 degrees. The hair on my arms came up. It got cold in there as he was talking to us about American drug policy. And then he starts asking about Hollywood and my business and what I'm doing with filmmaking. And our translator, Lieberdad, it was late enough. She had to go. Now it's just me, the blind guy, and Krista. And they get cold feet. They shuffle off upstairs to the hotel room. And I'm down there talking with everybody. And I'm talking with this gentleman because he's asking me about financing film. And I said, well, I'm not really in a good position to do something like that right now because I had just gone through bankruptcy court. I'd literally just gone through bankruptcy court because of my comic book company dragged me down. I had debt. So there's no way anybody's giving me any money to make a movie. And when you're dealing with somebody like this, you better really know how to handle a no respectively because it was scary for sure. And this dude was very serious. And I'm like, well, how do I explain this to this guy in a way that's not going to insult him? That's how you get hurt. So I just walked him down, the business of Hollywood and how people think that you make a movie and you go get a paycheck. It's not that way, man. It's a freaking nightmare to try to get your money out of film. Even harder than making the movie, getting your money out of the movie. Right there. That is the hardest thing to get paid for your movie. So I just had to explain to him that when you get into entertainment and you are involved in filmmaking, it's no different than gambling in Vegas. Anything can go wrong. There are no guarantees. So my friends, they was terrified that I was going to come back to the hotel room with a bag of cash. And I'm like, no, are you guys crazy? Never get involved with those dudes. Ever. They operate in a different world. And the consequences for mistakes in that world are extreme. And the government will seize any movie that's made with drug money. And I'd actually read about different crooks and mafia guys that tried to finance their own film and the government seized it. So A, you're going to endanger yourself, and B, you're going to make a product that might get seized by the government and never see the light of day. Fuck that.
I wonder, though, is that just Hollywood movies, or can you make pornography and have it be a lot easier to launder?
I dealt with a lot of that. I worked in adult films, and I worked as a graphic designer, and I worked for several companies that were run by the boys back east. So that money is still in that business.
Yeah.
It's still there. And I had dealt with some gentlemen, and it got to the point the company owed me a lot of money. I was editing low-budget horror films and music videos, and adult films were bread and butter. They were easy money. And so some of those guys were the boys, and you didn't want to fuck with them, man. Hey, I want to give a shout-out to my boys at Mission Terror. They do this paranormal show. They just started, they remastered their first 3 seasons. We're running it every Sunday night on American Horrors. American Horrors is free to watch on your Roku or online at www.americanhorrors.net. I just had to get that plug in there because Travis just started working. He's an EMT in Rockford. He's one of the show hosts of Mission Terror. And these guys have been doing this show, this paranormal investigation show, I think for a good 10, 15 years. They get stuff. They actually get stuff on camera, you know, and they're not afraid to say when they didn't get anything.
Yeah, because it can't be popping off every single night. I did my first ghost hunt at Trans-Allegheny, and it was tame.
Yeah. And so they're unashamed to be like, oh, that was just pigeons. And sometimes, God, they're such pussies. Sometimes they get so scared about stuff. And I'm like, I can tell you guys are not from the south side of Chicago. They're great. They're great guys. I think they're fantastic guys. I love their show. It's really genuine because they're genuinely scared and they're not there with the whole crew. You know, it's not Ghost Adventures. There's not a lighting guy and a rigging guy and a free sound techs. They're just two dudes doing it on their own. And they'll go investigate places just so they look cool. Not because there's some haunted history, not because, well, little Sally Ann died in a Mustang accident, doo-ba-doo-ba-doo, so it's got to be little Sally Ann haunting the ranch. Because I hate that jump to conclusion shit when you're dealing with non-physical entities and you're dealing with things that you can't sense or see, to jump to conclusions about what it is. That's one of the things about paranormal investigation shows that drive me nuts. And same with cop shows. I'm like, dude, you are leaping to conclusions here.
Because at the end of the day, you need content. And I think that's the mindset a lot of them fall into.
Yeah,
any sound has to be some kind of phenomena.
Yeah, right. One show was funny because outside the door, turned out it was cows. Murr, murr. And it was funny. They just showed it. And I thought that's what I like about their show is it's honest.
Yeah, you got to be very discerning. If your first result is like, oh, well, that was the Wendigo, you know, you got to you got to temper yourself.
Of course it was the Wendigo.
What else could it be?
Of course it's the Wendigo. That's got to be Sasquatch scat.
Tastes like it, too.
That's funny. I'm watching the capture of Bigfoot right now on American Horror. This Bigfoot costume is so bad. He's like an albino Bigfoot costume with an afro. It's bad. I love my TV channel. I really love doing American Horrors. I get so much joy from doing the network, and it's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And then we get to hang out with horror people. And right now, I don't think I've put in the plug, but we're doing my 6th film festival. So the American Horror Film Festival is happening October 4th, 5th, and 6th in downtown Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. And we are taking submissions right now. So if somebody wants to get me a film, or we're looking for features, shorts, music videos, documentaries, and even a mockumentary if you want to do one of those. Now is a good time to do it. You can enter directly through our website at americanhorrors.net/shop. In our store, we've got a couple different spots. It costs more money to enter the film festival via Film Freeway, the other site on Film Freeway, but it's a little cheaper to go directly through us, through the store. And we've got good stuff. The big red carpet premiere is going to be on the 5th. And we've got Ash Hamilton's coming up from Illinois with about 15 people from his cast and crew. They've got a really cool apocalyptic movie called Fucked Up Tales, all about the end of the world, and it's a fun anthology. And so we're doing the red carpet premiere with that, the 5th, and we're also bringing in Italian songstress Navone, has a short film in the festival, and it's the North American premiere of her film. And we're shooting a TV special around the whole thing. One of the cool things on Sunday, the 6th, the local film club for the 6th and 7th graders in Fontana, they made a 30-minute short with like claymation monsters.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so we're going to do a kid-friendly screening with them at like 2 p.m.-ish on the 6th and do a panel, like talk to them and interview them for the TV special. And we're going to have vendors and all kinds of different people down there and different filmmakers and actors and actresses. And it should be a really good time. It's my 6th festival. I really got to give a shout out to Abby Jean Wilson from All Booking and Promotions, who's really been a rock and has really been helping me sort out stuff because I've been doing so much of this stuff by myself. And I want to give a shout out to Adam Law, who is our creative director at the festival this year. And Adam, too, has been really good help for getting this done because it's so much work. It really is so much work. And it's very rewarding because you get to see who's the next guy. Because these are films that nobody's seen. Like, they haven't been released to the public. We're seeing them for the first time. I'm sole gatekeeper of getting it into the fest. So I figured, I've been running American Horrors, and my work has been banned, burned, and blacklisted. I think I'm the appropriate judge. So I'm the one that's deciding what gets in the fest, but then I select different professionals to decide who's the winner. Peter Sturm is an Oscar-winning effects man, and he decides who's the winner of Best Feature. And I'm still trying to figure out who I want to bring in to judge the music videos.
Are they all horror-themed music videos?
Yeah, I feel that horror is such a wide platform. It doesn't have to be werewolves. It doesn't have to be heavy metal. One of the best videos we got was from Mexico. This dude who gets grabbed by these cartel guys, and he's singing the whole song while they're drowning him.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it was really clever and really well done, and the song was great. And then, we've got metal, and then we've got like pop songs, and I really think horror is a really wide genre. So as the festival curator, I try to make sure to bring in a lot of different kind of horror. Instead of it just being slasher films or vampires or werewolves, I like all kinds of horror. Horror films cycle through the decades, and they address what is happening in the culture, because a lot of times horror is all about taboo. So taboos shift and change. You know what I mean? Once upon a time, they used to use gay marriage to scare everybody. Oh no, the gays are good to get married. That's going to be the end of the world. And then when that didn't work anymore and they couldn't scare people with that, oh, the transgenders are going to get you kids. Oh, look out. Here comes the transgenders. And so you have these different peccadillos from age to age.
I actually took a class on that in college. It was called Monsters in Modern Culture, and it was about what forms the basis of our fears and by proxy into our horror movies. Like Godzilla, Them, fear of nuclear radiation. The slasher film calls back to our primal fear being stabbed from like a more prehistoric time. It mimics the, claws, teeth, primal predators.
You mentioned the claws and teeth because I just saw somebody talking about that with Ray Kruger, about how the glove came about, because it was a primal fear of claws.
It's also one of the reasons why they have female leads in horror movies, because females are perceived as like physically more vulnerable than men.
Well, I'll take it a step further. I've had to come out and be a little belligerent about this, because I feel that most of the folks that are critics, they want to pontificate and they want to, oh, the final girl. Let me tell you all about the final girl. You're an idiot. You're not a professional exploitation filmmaker. Why do they stab them when they're making love? It's a primal fear, and you're getting to display the bodies for the audience. It's not like the guy banging the girl in Friday the 13th is ugly. Sex sells. So you have the primal fear of being in that vulnerable moment, because when you're in the act of making these sweet, sweet love, your senses are engaged and your nerves are afire and you're vulnerable. Your back is to the door. You know what I mean? So that right there is a primal fear. And then you have the exploitation of wanting to display the sex appeal to the audience. And that's what that's about. And then generally speaking, well, why a woman? Because most people would rather watch a pretty woman running around.
That is true. What is aesthetically more pleasing?
They don't know what they're talking about. I was a graphic designer. It was my job to package and sell these things. I was in packaging throughout the 90s, so I was dealing with all kinds of different VHS boxes, slip covers, clamshells, and then also designing packaging for toys and other things like that. And I was in meetings. I'm in meetings with the salespeople at Vivid Video, because the art department was working lock stop with the sales folks. So now you're in meetings with salespeople that are selling these movies to your video stores or what have you. And so I have this breadth of knowledge and experience that I fail to believe these pontificators bring to the matter. I really don't get it. Have you seen Jeepers Creepers?
I have, yeah.
Okay. Have you seen the sequel?
Yeah. Ugh.
When you watch Jeepers Creepers, you could tell it's directed by a child rapist. You could tell what he's into, what he's showing the audience. The whole thing with the high school jocks lined up taking a piss with all their shirts off next to the bus. That image has a different connotation when you realize that director is a convicted child rapist. He drugged and raped the 12-year-old star of his movie Clown House. Then Disney hires him to direct Powder, which is all about tweens.
That genuinely turns my stomach.
Yeah. So then if you're a true director And you're going to want to make sure you've got a little sampling of everything at the table for them, for your entertainment. That's what it is at the end of the day. It's an entertainment designed to occupy your time for a couple of hours. And if you enjoy the characters and enjoy the situation, you'll come back and watch the movie again.
And unfortunately, I think it is true that some fundamentally damaged people can make incredible art. I mean, it's definitely true in music, but it's hard to reconcile with the actual damaged person at the end of the day, especially in a situation like Jeepers Creepers, because that was like an amazing horror movie. But now it's like, oh God, where it came from.
I watched the Serbian film once. I am not going to watch that movie again. I mean, it was a well-made film. It was a very disturbing film, but it isn't a ride I want to take again.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I hear like the worst version is like completely unedited and you have to like kind of torrent it online.
Yeah, I've seen that cut, and it's hideous. The images that I saw, I'm never going to unsee that. That is some of the danger of watching horror films. You might cross something that's way beyond what you can handle.
Yeah, I've never really had a taste for the quote-unquote like torture porn movies. I'd never really enjoyed Hostel. I did like Martyrs, but a lot of that stuff just doesn't sit right with me. And oddly enough, I do like the Terrifier movies.
The French version or the American version of Martyrs?
The French version, the original.
Yeah, the original is really, oh my God, that is a terrifying film.
Yeah, I had no idea where that movie was going the entire time I was watching it.
Me too. I felt the same way. And I'm just like, I know there's human beings out there like that. Some of my friends in Iraq were telling me, they're like, dude, Hart, you know what I found when I was in Iraq? There were torture dungeons everywhere. I'm like, what? Yeah, we came across so many of these weird little torture dungeons. And I'm like, God damn, dude, that is terrifying.
Yeah, that is genuinely horrifying that people could be kept in captivity and just tortured for years and years and years. That scene in the movie of her trying to get the mask off of her face and then it just takes the skin with it. Oh my God.
Yeah, dude. Oh God. That's another film I haven't watched again. And I don't think I will. I did watch the American remake and I thought they missed the point completely.
As they often do.
What happens is you'll get a horror film that has these visceral images like The Exorcist. And what makes The Exorcist terrifying and absolutely brutal isn't the vomit. It isn't the head spinning. That's just the outburst that you remember visually. The terror of being helpless while some invisible force tears your child apart, that's the horror.
Yeah, especially that it happened to a child. There are a lot of unwritten laws in movie making, and it's usually that the child, which is fundamentally innocent, must come out intact. And when you're watching a movie by a director that's willing to cross that line, it creates such a feeling of danger that you could be shown anything.
Or Mimic by Guillermo del Toro. 2 kids get killed by the monster. You could tell they were setting it up. Then when I saw the film, I'm like, holy shit, they actually, wow, oh my God, damn. So then I knew the rules were off. And I'm like, okay, I don't know where this film's going to go. I don't know what's going to happen here. Yeah. And that's life. I mean, we're at war and we're bombing people. I'm just so thankful for what I have in my life. I mean, that's part of what horror's done for me, man, is I'm really grateful for the things I have, for the experiences I've survived, and for the people that are in my life. Horror definitely helps me keep some things in perspective. So I'm not, that motherfucker just cut me off on the road. I gotta go follow him around. You know what I mean? I just want to get home. I just want to make my baby some chicken. I've seen so much madness and craziness and death and destruction, and so much of it done by people that say they love you. I'm just trying to get through my day, man. Let me just get my cheeseburger and chill out. And I'm gonna have a rum and coke and talk horror with my friend here on the Hometown Horror Podcast. And I'm a lot more thoughtful than people think. They think when you do horror movies that you're not thoughtful. I am thoughtful. I think deeply about what I do, what I write, what I put on the network. It doesn't mean I'm going to do what people want me to do. Like, we don't have a schedule. Have you been in this situation where you're with your partner and you're trying to figure out what to watch that night?
Oh my God, just last night.
Eating up, like fucking, you eat up like 30 minutes. You're just trying to find something. And we call that the doom scroll. So at American Horrors, we don't have a schedule up. You're going to have to turn on the channel and see what's on. I don't have cable now. I decided to cut the cord since I'm a streamer, since American Horrors that's my full-time business, by the way. People listening at home, American Horrors is my job. It is my business. I've been doing it since 2008. And so when you guys spots the channel, you can help keep it free by going and buying a comic book. Go buy a coffee cup. Go buy a baby bib. Go buy something from our store because that's how we keep the channel free. And so I used to go bananas putting this schedule up, like on Twitter and stuff. And I noticed that it happened when my wife was in the last year of her life and she was dying of colon cancer, and I couldn't keep up with it all. I was the sole caregiver. And so I couldn't keep up with posting what's going to be coming up, what's coming up tomorrow. And I found that when I completely stopped posting, viewership went up. And I'm not talking like it went up like 5 people, but I've got 9,000 to 20,000 people watching American Horrors every day. At any minute, if someone advertises on the network, let's say you're going to run a commercial on American Horrors, anytime your spot is played, it's going to get seen by 90 to 250 people, period. Not a scroll through, not a swipe by, not a left click. They're going to see the whole commercial. And that's the value of advertising on American Horrors. And there's no bots. It's not a lie. Like Facebook is a lie. It's a lie. They're bots. They're not people. Okay? They're trying to get you to advertise. You're going to advertise to what? Another bot. That's not going to help you. Get out of here. Advertise on American Horrors. We're affordable. We're worldwide. We're uncut. We're uncensored. You're not going to get me wagging my finger at you because you had too much blood in your horror movie trailer trying to promote your film on Tubi. Because Tubi right now is doing business practices where they're favoring their in-house products now. So if you're an independent horror creator, how the fuck are you going to get anybody to know about your film? All those other sites are all owned by major corporate interests. They're fake. They're not genuine, real horror literary criticism or actual real coverage. It's all just a paid chuck and jive. How are you going to get horror fans to check it out? You're going to advertise on American Horror.
Honestly, last night we spent 40 minutes looking for a movie to watch. And it's exactly like you're saying. When you don't have total freedom to express whatever you want in your art, you get stagnation. You get boring products.
Mm-hmm. You get crap. You get real garbage. And then you can kind of see when there's a political bent thrown in. Like, I'm a Saturday Night Live fan. I've been watching Saturday Night Live since it started. The very first season when I was a little tiny boy in 1976, I believe. I loved that show. As an advertising copywriter, I know about manipulating people with words, buzz terms, trigger words. That's my job. I'm the fucking wizard, motherfuckers. I get paid money to be able to manipulate you. So when I saw what happened with the weaponization of Saturday Night Live, and Saturday Night Live was no longer about being funny, it became a political weapon, and it wasn't funny anymore. It just wasn't funny. And the way you watch the Operation Mockingbird stuff, just a lock, stop lying to the public. Gee, I don't know. The safety of these medical experiments. And you can't actually call it a vaccine officially. It's a medical experiment.
So just one question about SNL. In your opinion, when did things start really going like sideways? When was the fix in your opinion?
The Palin skits showed the power of how they could sway stuff. They really dug into the vice president when she was running. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it kind of ruined her campaign, right?
Oh, well, she ruined it for herself because she's a fucking idiot. Me and the boys going to go out and wrestle some grizzly bears. Shut up, idiot. She was an idiot. And so they really figured that one out, and New York's a Democrat town. And that party got into power, and that party became obsessed with how to control power, stay in power. I mean, they both are. They both are doing it. But the Democrats really, really figured out how to weaponize humor. And you saw it across the board, especially by 2020, especially the way that they went after Trump. Now, I'm not a Trump guy, all right? Now, when you talk about somebody honestly and you assess them honestly without your red state, blue state crap, and you just look at what's in front of you and what you're dealing with, there was something about that gentleman that got the establishment to move in lockstep in a way and be on message and be on script. And you understand that 6 companies own all the media. And the biggest threat to these guys is like you and me talking. That's why Facebook is monitoring everybody. That's why Facebook is monitoring all free speech, because they want to control the speech. They want to control what we think. If you control somebody's words, don't you kind of control them?
Yeah, that's what Carlin used to say. The way you control thought is you
Yeah.
control language. And if you censor language,
control language.
what happens to thought?
People think that the most important speech to protect is the popular speech. That is the most important speech to protect, because in a democracy, we need to be able to have a free platform of ideas. Even if you don't like the idea, I'm not for the KKK, but let those idiots talk their stupid shit. They're dumb. Let them show everybody how dumb they are. You get what I mean? Like, let them show the world how dumb they are. Because I don't like racism at all. I think that's not a fan of that at all. And I come from a multiracial household. My grandmother was black. My Uncle Norman was black. This was by marriage, because my parents, my grandfather got divorced. And I had a Japanese wife, and we had people with mental issues in my family. I really dealt with the gamut of human beings to human beings. And this notion of controlling the speech, especially on Facebook, when it involved sales and being able to work for a living and seeing that, okay, why was it okay to leave McDonald's open, but I had to close the mom and pop restaurant during the lockdown? Why is it that the restaurant that served the shittiest, most unhealthy, bad for you food was enabled, and the healthy food was shut down? They're trying to get people sick, and I'm here to say that I do have a dog in the fight, because they delayed my mother's emergency brain surgery because of their policy. So her emergency surgery that she needed to have next week, they delayed it by almost 3 months. And then her aftercare was crap. And I saved her life the week after her surgery. She had a complication, and she lives on the south side of Chicago, and I'm living in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. And I went down there because I was her sole caregiver. I was there for every surgery. My brother lives in California. His wife's in a wheelchair, and she's been in a chair since she was 5. And his son is autistic. My brother has his hands full. He is occupied.
Yeah.
So I was here in Chicago keeping an eye on Mom. That was my gig. Okay, you take care of your family, Adam. I'm going to handle Mom. So I moved from LA back to the Midwest, and she should have been in the aftercare longer, and they let her out way too soon. And she's in her house by herself. And man, I show up when I'm supposed to go down there and have dinner with her, and she's like catatonic in a chair in the living room, and she can't form words to speak. And it had been an issue with, if you get too much water in your system and your salinity in your body drops, your nerves can't communicate, because water conducts electricity better with salt in it. And your nerve endings communicate by an electric pulse that jumps a gap. If you can't get the electric to jump, if you can't get the juice, she couldn't form sentences, she couldn't think. I got her up and got her on her feet, got her in the ER, and man, I don't even know how long she's been in that chair, because when I got her up, dude, pissed all over my feet. Oh my God, it was like having a bucket of hot water dumped on my feet. Oh, that poor woman. And then we went through the whole thing with the ER, and we're in the ER, and dude, the doctors and the nurses in the ER during the lockdown did not have masks up. They only put those things up when they saw me coming down the hallway, if they didn't know I was there. As soon as there was no one to see them, the mask came down. So my mom would probably be alive today if it wasn't for these policies. So I definitely have an anger and a dog in the fight, and also from dealing with the American medical establishment for as many decades as I have with my wife's illness. She's fucking suffering from colon cancer. So in the convalescence home that she was in at one point, they're feeding her salami. You're not supposed to eat processed food like that if you've got colon cancer. And then she was supposed to be in this like air mattress bed that would kind of help her blood circulate, because she was also suffering from severe anemia. Well, guess what? None of those assholes knew how to operate the air mattress, and she was always in pain, and I didn't know why until I discovered her air mattress is barely inflated and you're sleeping on metal slats. Yeah. So some of the proudest moments in my life, brother, are the fact that I have never knocked out a doctor.
And I'm sure the temptation was unbearable at some points.
Well, they did stuff to hurt my wife. They consistently, through negligence and bullshit, and she was grateful for whatever help she could get. And I will say that there were a lot of really amazing people here in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, over at Janesville, at their hospital there, that really did do their best to help her. They were really great. And then, man, when you ran into these morons, you're like, did you just make my wife scream? I just heard her scream. That's when you're ready to hit somebody.
We're going through something very similar right now with my girlfriend's grandmother. She's getting to that age where individual incidents are starting to pile up and really knock her down. And I mean, you get two sides of it. You get the people that are serving her different combinations of like carbs and sugar, even though she's diabetic. And then you have extremely committed nurses that are just checking in at all times and as helpful as they can possibly be.
Yeah. I have to say that the medical care that Waka got here in Lake Geneva was far superior than when we got in Los Angeles. I mean, we were treated like fucking shit in LA, in Pasadena, in Glendale. Just terrible. Honest to God. And at one point, when her cancer really hit, our American doctor literally sat me down and said, you need to get your wife to Japan, because my wife was Japanese. If you keep her here, the American medical establishment is going to kill her. You need to get her back to Japan. It's your fucking doctor telling you this, man.
There was a Chris Rock quote that said, if the American people knew how good the medical care is for the people at the top of the financial food chain, they would kill us all. And it's surprising, too, especially in places like LA, where you feel like they'd have the most resources, the most funds to train up people to handle this stuff.
It's apathy. They didn't care. They absolutely didn't. I mean, I can't say that about everybody, but some of the spaces that I was involved in and some of the ERs I was in, it just, again, real life horror.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man, yeah. My mom, the brain tumor, was pushing on her pineal gland and was affecting her hormone levels. So it was a hell of a thing to go into these meetings at the same time. We're talking like April. You know, what, the lockdown hit March 16th? And my town was open. You know, I mean, like we weren't locked down here in Wisconsin. Everybody was driving up from Chicago to party up here. Not one fucking bartender up here died of COVID, okay? Not one. But they sure did a good job on killing my mom.
Yeah, it was the whole thing with the ventilators too, right? It ended up actually killing people because it removed their ability to breathe themselves.
Sports medicine is different than regular medicine. And you were mentioning that like the poor folk knew the health care the wealthy folk get compared to you. Yeah, I saw that in sports medicine. The stuff that I saw happening because I was out in LA and, you know, my dojo was Gokorchevichian's dojo, where you had Manny Gambirian, you had Ronda Rousey, and you had Carl Parisian, and you had all these amazing martial artists come out of it. And it was the home of Gene the Bell. And so I got to see a different kind of medicine. And at one point with my wife, I made a deal with the team physician, Dr. Adam. He had developed a different treatment for dealing with deviated septums. And I made a deal with him to get health care for my wife and I, cutting edge sports medicine, UFC style health care for a year. And what I did is I made his video. I hired a crew and shot his whole treatment video and interviewed everybody and set all that up. Because believe me, barter is a lovely, lovely thing in our country, and trading is a really good thing to do. I got to experience like being wired up and dealing with like hot lasers, cold lasers, different kinds of treatments like that, and saw the difference it made. I've had laser treatments on my knees and my ankles, and I saw the difference in my recovery time.
Mel Gibson was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he brought his, I think it was like 92-year-old father on. And I think they were living somewhere in South America where they were able to administer stem cells. And Mel Gibson's father went from not being able to walk at all to being able to stride by himself without any assistance, without a walker, without anyone holding his shoulder. It's insane.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. He regained the ability to walk after it had entirely deteriorated.
Hey, I broke my ankle fighting one night over jokes. So I rolled an ankle and I broke it. And one of the people in the dojo was a doctor, and he worked at the hospital right down the street. So when my ankle got broke, he was able to get me through all the ER BS and get me immediate treatment. It made a big difference in the recovery of my ankle.
It just makes you think. It's that expression that there's no money in a cure, there's money in treatment. I have to get a deviated septum surgery at some point, and I'm kind of dreading it just because I don't know if I can trust the local hospitals outside of DC.
I hear you. This treatment that Dr. Adam did was he would take balloons and he would put them up through into your sinus cavity and inflate the balloon to break up all the scar tissue. He developed it for boxers. and people in combat sports. I mean, luckily for me, with all my career and all my time training, I've got some injuries. You know, I've broke a rib. I've had my face split open. You know, I've broken bones in my hands. I've broken my ankles. I've broken stuff on other people. That was not fun. I wasn't real happy with myself when that happened, because accidents happen when you train at a high level. Yeah,
that is actually a
never...
mentally scarring thing when you realize you've seriously harmed somebody. That does leave an impact.
Oh, no, not at all. The one I hurt was my brother. I broke my brother's rib my first night at Gokor Gene.
Ugh.
Yeah, I've been doing
injury.
Taekwondo already for a while, and he was doing grappling and jiu-jitsu, and so he's been training with these guys for about a year and a half, and he couldn't wait to beat up his big brother. You know how it is. He just couldn't fucking wait. I'm like, it's my first night. I don't know what I'm doing, man. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to fight. And I ended up breaking his rib.
Good Lord. Yeah.
I felt terrible about it. I felt awful about it. I did not feel good about it at all. So yeah, one of my instructors had crippled a guy, broke his neck, and that prompted him.
Yeah, I wouldn't know if I could carry something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. And okay, so now I'm like 55. I don't train hard like I did. And in fact, out here in Lake Geneva, I'm just doing my own thing for myself. I'm not at a school or anything out here, but I'm not in that zone I was in when I was 28. And at Gokors, you had to fight for rank. So if you were going to train up and you wanted to get your purple belt, you were going to have to fight for it. And they said that once you hit 35 years old, you didn't have to fight for your rank anymore because your body just couldn't take it anymore.
I turn 34 next month. That's a bad number.
It's not bad, dude. Just take your vitamins, man. Take your vitamins. I take R-alpha lipoic acid. I take DHEA, which helps regulate my hormone levels. I take L-carnitine, which helps with energy levels, and green tea extract and honey. And, you know, I'm 55 and my girlfriend's 22 years younger than me, bro. The company that I get my vitamins that help keep Waka alive is called Life Extension. They're based out of Florida, and Life Extension makes some of the best supplements. And, you know, doing MMA and doing martial arts and stuff. And I had friends that worked for vitamin companies, and, you know, different training partners worked for this guy, and other people were SWAT dudes. And so you learned a lot about nutrition and medicine from just trying to keep your body moving after all the hard bumps. You know, I drink lots of water. I eat lots of fresh food. I try to avoid the prefab crap. You know, I'm not eating Doritos. If I make popcorn, oh, what is that? It's olive oil, popcorn, and some Himalayan sea salt. Yummy. And sometimes I'll use olive oil and sometimes I'll use coconut oil. You know, that's really nice, healthy, good roughage, you know.
You got to find the practical solutions for health.
Yeah. Go get yourself the organic grass-fed beef from Aldi. Cook that up when you're cooking. A lot of your body is what you put into it. And if you're putting in garbage and you're putting in crap and you're eating taco hell, that's how you age really fast. With that, and also you got to get your sleep, you know. Sleep. Remember to sleep, everybody. And stay off your fucking phone. I take my phone and I put it in another room. Literally, because I recognize the opiate addiction, constant need to get this other hit.
Yeah, it really hijacks your mind with that just pointless dopamine loop. You were talking about advertisement earlier, and that's the reason why I keep some of the social media apps on my phone, is to just try and promote the podcast. That'll be the first thing I delegate, is just marketing the show and managing the socials.
That's pretty much what I'm doing with my appearances on social media. Okay, look, it's real simple. You turn on that brick, you open up the doorway to having your entire mood derailed by somebody who does not give a fuck about you. Facebook does not give a fuck about you. Facebook is in the business of keeping you online as long as possible. They like pissing you off. They want you mad. Haven't you noticed, like, trying to operate your social media, they've made it as difficult as possible? Facebook is really, with their Meta Business Suite, your Meta Business Suite sucks. Facebook was better 6 years ago when it didn't have all that crap. It just keeps you locked into their loop because their advertising model is based on how long the victim is stuck in the trap. Now, if I don't go on Facebook, I can't change my mood. I could go about my day and I've already got to deal with my own PTSD, for Christ's sake. I'm already wrestling with my own demons. I don't need other people popping off and setting me off, and Facebook doing it on purpose so they can keep me engaged longer. And don't get me started on the algorithm. That's a live algorithm I have.
Yeah, one of the things that genuinely scares me about social media nowadays is how memes are created to market products. Because it used to be that memes were created by people that actually enjoyed engaging with a community or something. Like you see a movie or a show you like. Game of Thrones memes were everywhere. Now it's targeted to keep the conversation going. It's the new water cooler talk.
Well, like Comic Book Resources is not an actual comic book journalism site. It's owned by some major corporation, and it's only there to sell you shit. That's all it is. I mean, that was my job, and I still do it. I'm doing all the advertising for our films, for the film festival. That's the great thing and the great joy of running my own television network. We've been streaming since 2011, and we started the American Horror TV show in 2008. So we shot the full first season. The contract we had was to create a horror block for Europe that was going to be on satellite channels all across Norway, Sweden, Croatia, all the Baltic states, Spain. And then the real estate bubble burst in 08 and 09, and that whole thing crashed. I had a season done in the can, cut. And that's when we started looking around and trying to make a TV channel happen. And I got recruited by Alki David, the billionaire behind Film On. And Alki recruited me to do a horror channel. He knew I've got a really good ability to attract attention. I'm pretty good at getting eyeballs. So Alki knew for his fledgling outfit, he needed a ringleader. He needed a Barnum and Bailey circus, and I was it. Yeah, when I showed up to that meeting, I was driving my beat to shit 83 Chevy Impala through Beverly Hills, and I roll up to his mansion, and I go in, and I'm wearing leather pants, spiked combat boots, and a T-shirt that said "Gun Owner Victim." And mine was checked on "Gun Owner." That's when I met with Alki, and then when I met with James Cameron's brother, who I didn't realize was a Marine, I was wearing an AR-15 asshole remover shirt. And I actually had a really nice compliment. I had this big meeting, and it was with this company called Dissect, and it was electronic cigarettes, and I was going to be a celebrity spokesperson for them. And I'm in this meeting with John and the whole company, and Vampire Wine is there. And John's at the corner of the table, all imperious. Well, my people tell me you're a horror guy, huh? But guess what? My son is a huge horror fan. If you are who you say you are, he's going to know who you are. So we'll get him on the phone. So he fucking makes a big thing of it, and he fucking calls his son up, and his son's working in a different part of the office building, and he's on his like, oh, yeah, I'm here with Hart Fisher. Oh, what? Oh, okay. Turns out that John's wife had mental health issues and had to be committed into an insane asylum. And his son, my book, Poems for the Dead, helped him get through it.
Oh, wow.
This book got me through that. And I've been in that position a couple of times now when I found out that my work actually helped people get through some really bad stuff. And to me, that's the ultimate compliment. You know, I didn't set out to do that. Like Poems for the Dead was about my girlfriend's murder. That's a primal scream. That's a primal, mad, rant, angry, insanity, shattered human being book. And it's a hell of a thing when you meet people who are like, your book saved my life. My book what?
My book? Yeah.
My book? Are you kidding me? Or they'll show up and they'll have the Poems for the Dead paperback and they have read it to death. Like the book's falling apart.
Yeah, that's something a lot of people don't realize about horror is that it provides catharsis. It helps people process trauma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. It really does. It really helps people process trauma. That's exactly the way I would put it. It helps them process trauma. It gives them a safe place to process it, like a roller coaster. You're not really in danger on that roller coaster, but you're getting to process this terror and thrill. And it's an intense thing, the horror genre. It isn't what people think it is. So I was doing Heart Attack Radio in Los Angeles, and I had my show, and I was very politically involved with the medical marijuana movement. And I was dealing with a corrupt LA City Council member who had been developing petrochemically toxic land to put a park on. You've seen Reservoir Dogs?
Yeah.
In the beginning of Reservoir Dogs, when the heist goes wrong and they're running down the street and they run past a gas station, this was shot in Highland Park. This gas station was ruled as petrochemically toxic land, illegal to develop for human habitat, and illegal to fuck with the soil, because if you fuck with the soil, it'll aerate all the poison in it. You know, it's a byproduct of all the different toxic chemicals that are in a gas station. The gas station is really toxic, man. My wife was recovering from cancer the first time. My buddy, John, he supervises FDA drug trials. And John was like, Hart, she could never pump gas again. I'm like, what? He goes, benzene. That's where she's going to get exposed to that cancer-causing toxic chemical. Most likely will be at a gas station when you pump up. You do not want to hover around your gas tank while you're pumping up. You want to walk away from it.
Oh, Jesus. That's a new thing to be afraid of.
And it's just one more thing, and it's why I'm still physically fit enough to be banging the snout out of a girl 22 years younger than me.
Knowledge is
She's in her
power.
30s, for Christ's sake, so it's not like I'm fucking robbing the cradle or anything here, guys, at home, who are hearing this going, oh, Mr. Hollywood's got the younger girl. Yeah, she's in her fucking 30s. She's a grown woman, guys.
After the mid-20s, age is pretty much just a number. Not to say there aren't huge mental discrepancies in age, but, you know.
It's a mental state. It really is a mental state. And as you go through life, what you want to do is you want to surround yourself with people that stimulate you. Because when you stop the stimulation, you die. The whole reason I started doing video games was to start learning how to do them for my comic characters and to develop new neural pathways.
Yeah.
That's why I started doing video games.
You mentioned that during our last episode, and it's stuck with me. You need to find things that feed your head.
Constantly. Okay, where I'm at in Lake Geneva, there's definitely an age group here that's older. Now, you tend to be a reflection of what you surround yourself with. I remember one time in LA, my friends were like, man, Hart, you really run with a young crowd. I was like, what? And they were intimidated by it. And I'm like, I'm just running with people that excite me. That's who I want to work with. These are the creators I want to help usher into American Horror. One of the great things I get to do at American Horror is I get to introduce people to things they might not have seen. I get to introduce artists and creators in a way they might not have gotten introduced to the public before. And that's one of the great joys for me, is discovering talent. And that's why I could say, hey, I have developed 10 different comic artists in the top 10. I have worked with guys that were nothing and now they're millionaires. So I like that. I like that energy. And I'm seeing guys make $1 million, and I've seen guys lose it. And that's no mean joke. But for me to be Billie Eilish's first fucking director, and then to find myself completely shut out of the press process, like, okay, I am her first director. She is in the opening credits for the American Horror TV show. I directed her as Death in a music video. How come that's not public knowledge?
Well, handlers for one.
Yeah, right?
They got to control her image.
Yeah, they do. And she looks pretty lonely, man. And I saw that a lot in Hollywood, where you've got all the parasites that are making money off of her. They don't really give a fuck about her.
Well, look at Britney Spears now. You know what I mean? She's in a house by herself going crazy.
Yeah, it's the same thing. And I'm watching it happen to Billie. Because I know that kid. You get what I mean? Like, that kid grew up next door to me. I ran American Horrors from the house. And she grew up right next door, and she was homeschooled. Her family were vegan artists and actors and actresses, and her father was a craftsman, so he did a lot of carpentry work to make ends meet. And so I knew them. You know what I mean? You know your neighbor. And so I see that kid, and I just looked really fucking lonely to me, man. She looked really lonely and a bit lost.
And I think
she's got her brother Finney.
No, absolutely. Every time they do an interview, I watch them do an interview with Zane Lowe for the new album. You can definitely tell that they're the kind of people that, like, they're truly alive when they're around each other. They have their own, like, little world together. It's not how all siblings work, but it's something that's hard to find.
Well, that was the world they grew up in, because Highland Park, I believe her handlers do not want the public to know the truth, you know, of the fact that A, she was homeschooled. B, she didn't go to school. She did not go to school. Okay. She did not have a normal childhood. All right. There was lots of play dates, and lots of juggling classes and trapeze classes and, you know, different stuff like that. And Highland Park is a really dangerous neighborhood, man. I'm not kidding. I watched gunfights happen in front of me, bro. Undercover cops and gangbangers in front of the house. I
Jesus.
watched two carloads of gangbangers shoot it out with each other and crash into my neighbor's front yard while I'm watching this on Sunday afternoon in my lazy boy chair with both my doggies sitting in my lap. And I'm watching this happen through two picture windows. And he almost took out my car in front of my house. And the losers of the gunfight get out and they're like looking to see. I only saw one guy get out of that car. Then the other gangbangers came and got him and helped him get out of there before the cops showed up. And my neighbors left after that. They moved after that person crashed into their front fucking yard, man.
Christ,
and I watched this happen right in front of me. And I was like ecstatic too that I didn't get hit with a bullet or nothing. I mean, they were fucking going at it with shotguns and pistols. Boom, 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 wah, wah. That's the neighborhood she grew up in.
And I think the temptation is to say that, oh, she's got more money than God. She can decide the course of her life. That's not what you need to worry about. You need to worry about all the other people that are making money off of her. They're not going to let her leave.
No, that's exactly what I see happening. That's exactly what I see happening. We were in a dangerous neighborhood together. So they kept an eye on Finney and Billy like a hawk, right? Everybody kept an eye on them. Like they were not roaming the neighborhood like free-range chickens. Like I grew up on the south side of Chicago, going everywhere and doing everything. These kids were micromanaged to death. They didn't get to go run around town. You know, Finney was playing in bands and acting in movies when he was in high school. They're not going to a school. You know, there's a certain value in going to a public school and being forced to deal with situations out of your control, being forced to deal with bullies, being forced to deal with awkward social situations. And, you know, they're both really smart kids. Both of them amazingly talented and kind of savvy, you know, but also really isolated. And they got a big kick out of American Horror being next door to them. You know, I'm doing horror movies and shooting music videos and doing crazy shit.
Yeah, that's got to be perfect for like a growing child's imagination.
Yeah, and I was a friendly person. You know what I mean? Like, hey, Finney, how you doing, buddy? What's up, pal? Hey, did you know Danzig was here yesterday? Yeah, that was his Porsche parked out in front of the house. Oh, man, Danzig was here? Yeah.
Man himself.
Glenn's awesome, man. Glenn's great. I really enjoyed all the time I've gotten to work with him, even when he was mad at me and yelling at me. I've had Glenn scream at me in an elevator, like full, oh! He's mad. And I didn't blame him either. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing that I feel that a lot of folks aren't able to do is look at your own action and own your action. What did you do to set off your mother-in-law? Did you really need to fucking say that one thing over dinner when people had too much to drink and you knew they were a little tipsy? Oh, God. You know what I mean? During the lockdown, I was banned from my family Thanksgiving for how I was handling things and my opinion on things. So my mother's family basically shut her out of her final Thanksgiving of her life because of their assholishness over me. They said if I showed up to Thanksgiving and refused to leave, they would call the police on me. And I'm like, well, why the fuck would I even come? If I'm not wanted, why would I even come? If you don't want me there, I'm not going to show up and cause trouble. Jesus Christ. And so my mom, I was her caregiver. I was the one taking her places. So she didn't get to go to her last Thanksgiving. And I hope that my family members are proud of themselves.
Yeah, that's a hard thing to live down.
Yeah.
It's fucking terrible.
My family's nutty. I'm like 55. I've got this brother of mine out in Cali, but that's it. You know, my brother and I don't always have the best relationship. So it's kind of interesting now to be an adult and surfing this world without all the safety net. And I had friends that were orphans and I had friends that were foster kids and stuff. And I'm starting to really feel what they were going through, you know? I don't know about you, but my mom was a big safety net to me. She really, really helped me get through a lot of crazy stuff. The situation that happened to me with the Jeffrey Dahmer comic book, I wanted to get the facts right, and I wanted to handle a distasteful subject matter as tastefully as I could, and I felt I did. And I purposely avoided too much gore. And I literally took my book to a lawyer before I published it to make sure I was good. And then the rest is history.
Yeah.
Several lawsuits
How well did that
later
go?
and protest marches on my fucking house, but the lawyer said it was fine. you don't really know what's going to happen with any of this goddamn shit, dude. And the Dahmer book hit, and I can't believe the Netflix special came on like 30 fucking years later to the date of the release of my book. And the guy who produced that show, we know each other, not personally, but the man has ripped me off several times. And sometimes I wonder, like, dude, are you fucking with me? You know what I mean? Like, they Photoshop my covers. Like, okay, my books are in the Dahmer thing on Netflix, right? The Serial Mom with Kathleen Turner from John Waters, they have the Dahmer book in there. And the production staff got a hold of me and they sent a release form. And I filled out the release form and thought, yeah, great, this is awesome. I didn't get paid any money. It's gonna be in Serial Mom with Kathleen Turner. This sounds great, awesome. And the same thing with Val Kilmer in this revenge film called The Sultan's Thief, which is really good with Vincent D'Onofrio. And it involves meth guys and murder. And the meth guys, their shooting gallery where they like to shoot up and do their thing, they covered the walls with pages from all of my comic books, floor to ceiling. You can clearly see Babylon Crush, Kill the Bull, all these characters. And what do? They sent me over a release, and I'm like, oh, this sounds cool. Here you go, guys. You know what? You need some more books. Here, send me $20. I'll send you these books. Here you go. But the Dahmer one didn't contact me. They didn't get permission. They didn't fucking get a release on my books. And in fact, those cocksuckers photoshopped my covers. They probably don't even understand that, like, one of the covers they altered, the Dahmer versus Christ wraparound cover, that they made a special point in episode 10 to single out that book and talk about what a piece of shit I am. They literally put that in there. And I knew the victims' families because I'd been involved in the talk shows and the court cases and the lawsuits. And so you knew these people, all right? You're backstage with them. You're sitting next to them on a stage, right? And then they got to commercial. You're talking to each other. I know these women. I talk to them. So they put up this bullshit like they're something out of fried green tomatoes, and they're having a little coffee clutch in their kitchen, and they've got the Dahmer versus Christ book, and they're going, well, would you look at this? He's going to make Jeffrey Dahmer a superhero now. Now he's making him a superhero. Oh, that's terrible. Well, maybe we should sue him. We saw what happened last time. I am up to here with this First Amendment stuff. This terrible guy, this awful guy, and they're talking all this shit on me. And they're passing the comic book around, right? It's my original art that I own the copyright to. It's different than if I got hired by Marvel and did a cover for them. And I have different protections under the law for my original artwork that they Photoshop in really weird ways. Jesus has his cross on his boxing shorts right in the front, and they Photoshop the cross over onto the side of his shorts. And then Jesus gets smacked in the face by Dahmer, and his crown of thorns is flying off of his head, and his hair is going bananas. They shortened his hair so he looked like he had more of a Jew fro.
Ugh.
And I didn't get that at all. I'm like, why did you guys Photoshop the hair shorter? So they're going on about this, and I'm just laughing. I'm like, why is this even in this series? Why are they even talking about these stupid fucking comic books in the series?
Well, you got to think, man, it might be some kind of humiliation ritual, some kind of flex of power. Did you listen to that Cat Williams interview at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, I did.
He was talking about how prominent black celebrities, they would have them wear a dress. Kevin Hart specifically when he was on
for a long
SNL.
time, even before Cat, Dave Chappelle came out with that when they wanted him to do it in half baked, I think.
Yeah, and thinking about it, like, I'm not even entirely sure that's just a racially exclusive thing.
I do not think it is just a racial thing. I think it's across the board.
Yeah, because I can think of a number of white male celebrities that have gone through stuff like that too. But I also understand it's different between races.
All right, billionaire Alki David was doing a show called Battle Cam, and he said in his tagline, I want to find out how low will you go for how cheap. And he was paying people like $50 to tattoo Battle Cam on their foreheads and shit. And Alki had different drug problems at one point in his life, and the guy that I worked with at the beginning, he changed.
Yeah, because it can warp your mindset
all the time. It totally warps your mindset, and Hollywood warps your mind. And I really felt for Alki as a human being, because no one saw him as a human being. They only saw him as a wallet. And I think that's part of why Alki behaved that way. And I think that's part of why he did Battle Cam, because he was treated like shit. He wasn't treated like a fucking human. He was treated like a wallet. And I'd be hanging out with this guy, and we're talking billionaire. We're talking billionaire, all right? And I'm rolling with this guy and doing American Horrors and having fun. And I made it an oath to myself. Don't ask him for any money unless you're owed it.
Yeah, you don't want to become one of those people.
Don't ask him for any fucking money. And I didn't. I never did. They just hovered around him like flies on shit. It was pretty relentless. And here's what's funny. Let's give you this story. Creepers.
This is going to break my heart.
So
I love that movie.
You're gonna
it's
like
such a bad story.
You're going to like this. Okay, for whatever the artist did behind the scenes, one must say that he did make a good horror film, all right? I like Jeepers Creepers 1. I like Jeepers Creepers 2. I think it's good. It's just creepy as fuck because of his weird sexual perviness. It just changes the whole flavor of Jeepers Creepers 2 for me so bad.
You can't unsee it, yeah.
Yeah, and so there I am with Alfie. And I don't know if I've told this story publicly, but my friends all know this story. So Alfie had his office set up in Beverly Hills. So he's got his studio in Beverly Hills, and he's about to have a meeting. And I think because I didn't bug him for money, I just was hanging out and having fun. And he was launching a whole new broadcast TV network. And he allowed me to be the fly on the wall and see how they were doing it. He let me surf in his wake. I really liked that Alfie did that, because I got to learn. I really got to learn a lot from being in that position and being around him. So I'm there. I'm hanging out at the office because, when we were launching the channel, Dropbox wasn't the same thing. This is like 2011, right? So I'd be bringing a drive with movies for them to load up in the hopper for American Horror. So instead of sending a delivery driver, instead of sending this stuff through the mail, I made a point to go there personally. I personally delivered our drive. I made a point to walk the room, shake hands, and see what's going on. And so I'm there one day, and Alki had a meeting with some horror producers. We're sitting in like a corner of a room, white walls, and these chairs are odd. They're like these big, weird, kind of like blue art object chairs, you see on TV shows once in a while. And so we're sitting here, and Alki is on my right. I'm on a corner, and on my left, there's nobody standing there. And on Alki's right is somebody else. I can't remember who it was. And so he's like, hey, Hart, I've got these horror producers that are here, and I want you to sit in on this meeting and give your opinion. And I'm like, all right, Alki, sure, no problem. And these three gentlemen come in. They did not like me being in that meeting because Alki introduced me. Oh, this is Hart. And Alki's English. He's the heir to the Coca-Cola bottling empire out of Greece. So that's where his family made all their money. He was in the army. Alki was in the British Army, which I think was pretty cool, actually. He was an interesting dude to work with. And I'm sitting there, and he's like, Halt is our American Horror's expert on horror, so he's going to sit in on this meeting. And I'm like, okay, cool, I'm in. And they came in, and they brought him like a chicken Caesar salad, right? And I saw this happen a lot, and I didn't get it. I'm like, what the fuck? Alki's a billionaire. Why is everybody showing up with a chicken Caesar salad for him? And so they're showing up, and so they bring in this salad, and Alki opens it up, and the guy makes a point, like, in Fight Club, when Brad Pitt and what's-his-nuts meet each other on the plane for the first time, and he goes, ass or nut.
Now a question of etiquette.
Yeah, and so this dude, he could have just given me the salad, I could have handed it to him. He made a point to walk through the table and stand right in front of me and put his ass in my face. You get what I mean? Like, his ass is right in my... I'm like, what the fuck? He gives Alki the salad. Alki's starting to eat this. Then he walks back over to... Because me and Alki and his staff, we're sitting, and they're standing in their presentation. I figure out what's up right away. I did not like having that ass stuck in my face.
They're trying to show you your place.
Rude.
Try to force some hierarchy on you. Yeah.
That's what a friend of mine said. A friend of mine said that. He said the same thing. He's like, Hart, that's part of the salad. I'm like, what? That's a gay thing. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I don't know. I do not know. I can't verify that or go against that. But some of my friends were like, dude, that was a whole weird gay thing going on.
Oh,
there.
Shit. So that might have been like a peacocking kind of thing, like spreading the feathers.
Could have been, yeah. So he goes and stands over in the corner and goes back around the table, and Alki has a couple of bites of this fucking salad and sets it down. He's like, all right, so let's hear it. And I knew immediately. I looked at them and they started talking about they didn't want to let the cat out of the bag right away. What they did was they started talking about how they're going to do this horror franchise. And they're just going to do a franchise because, you know, it's so easy to create a horror franchise. You know, you just snap your fingers and create a fucking multi-fucking-decade horror franchise. It's so easy, right? So they're going on about how they're going to create this horror franchise, and they start discussing the property. And I knew this is Jeepers Creepers 3, and this is that director, that rapist piece of crap. So that guy, and hey, he can't come back at me because he's a convicted rapist piece of shit. He went to jail for this, okay?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm not talking out of school here. So they start talking about the property. And I went, is this Jeepers Creepers? And are you talking about the director, blah, 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 Vincent, blah, blah, blah? And they look at me and they know the cat's out of the bag. And I look over at Alki and I go, Alki, Jeepers Creepers is a pretty good horror franchise. It's a good series, but you've got a problem. Do you really want to finance a film where every time Vincent makes a new movie, the boy he raped comes out and protests it? Do you really want to be associated with that? Do you want to have the premiere of this film and have this person protesting the film? Do you want to be part with that? Those dudes were staring daggers at me, man.
Almost like morals didn't even factor in for them.
It didn't factor in at all. They didn't give a fuck. And Elkie looked at me and he knew, like, I gave him good advice. A lot of people, like you said, like, okay, I feel that the people that are around Billy are just there to make their money. They don't care about Billy. They don't give a fuck about Billy. They don't care about that girl. They just want to make their money. They don't care. They don't care if they wreck her. They don't care if she's another Britney Spears. They don't give a fuck. And also working an adult, you know, I mean, I knew pimps. Dude, I knew pimps about that because a lot of that is in Hollywood, like the gay casting couch. That's a thing. That's a real, honest to God thing. And some of my male actor friends have been assaulted by directors. I can't go into a name because my friend won't like it if I out him. But it happens all the time with this predatory behavior. I saw so much of it and I got myself into trouble because I stopped a lot of it. I think it hurt my career. I think I injured my career because there was abuse that I would stop.
The thing I always think back to is the festival of Saturnalia. It's like the Feast of the Vices. If that's what they were doing all the way back then, how do you think that's evolved to now? Because it's definitely still happening.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, at the darkest points of my life, consistently different satanic groups have come to try to recruit me. And then throughout my life, the Masons have consistently tried to recruit me to become a Mason. I can't join a club where I'm going to forswear my allegiance to my family for their club. My family comes first, period. Plus, my dad was a Shriner, and my dad said it was all bullshit. I got married in the oldest Masonic temple in Los Angeles and Pasadena on a full moon on Halloween night in costume. And I came down the aisle to the Toccata and Fugue in D minor, dressed as a demon.
Good Lord.
The character from The Cell. In the movie The Cell with Vincent D'Onofrio, there's a moment where he's washing somebody in a bathtub. He's all white, he's got black pants, and his forearms are a little bit sparkly gold. That's how I was done up for my wedding.
I mean, aesthetically, that's pretty awesome, but
it was pretty demonic because they loved us. They gave me free reign. They let us go bananas. I've got photographs of me coming out of their ceremonial coffin in the full demon drag. We found it in one of the closets as we got loaded. So we got photographs of me coming out of their ceremonial. You know that they do the rebirth ritual?
Yeah.
Where you are in a coffin. There's photographs of me coming out of their coffin in costume.
I might be conflating this with something else, but don't they also like simulate burying?
And I would think that that's, yes, they do. And I would think that would vary between lodges because a thing about the Masons that the public never really gets into, the civilian Masons are different than the military Masons. Masonry is big and Satanism is big in the armed forces too. One of the guys I had on Heart Attack Radio, that was a big thing we talked about, how he was recruited into a satanic cult when he was in the Army and why he went with it and why he was involved. And no one wants to talk about Satanism in the military, but the head of the MK Ultra program was an active Satanist, right down to the costume and the scary eyebrows. That guy went on talk shows. And this is a guy involved in the CIA heading up their mind control experiments. And he's an avowed, active black magic Satanist. Dude, what does that say? What does that say about our government? What does it fucking say, bro? I've had my experiences in Hollywood where folks offered me opportunity where I knew was a setup.
Yeah, the Faustian bargain. They offer you something you think you want, but what they're taking from you is much more valuable than what you'll gain.
Yeah, and I've been in those situations a couple of times, and I would never sell. My mom and my dad valued me and my brother immensely. They made a point to tell us, hey, you're going to stay out of the fucking Army because they don't give a shit if you're alive or dead. You're just a cog in the machine. They don't care about you. I care about you. I've got too much invested in you to lose you over this crap.
Yeah, my father said something very similar. It's like, I'm not going to let you go out there and be fodder.
I'll say, man, when I moved, the only time in my whole goddamn life I saw my father cry is when I moved from Chicago to LA. I can't just get in a car and come see you. And that was heartbreaking. Oh my God. And he did it in front of my brother and in front of one of my best friends. Wow. I'm holding my father while he cries. And why is he crying? Because his sons are leaving town. That's heavy.
Yeah. Was that one of those first moments where you see your parents as just people?
I got to have a lot of that when I went to college, especially when Michelle got killed, because my family had never dealt with a tragedy like that. My girlfriends before her had also been raped, and one of them was my coworker where I worked at Mabel. So I've been reeling from I don't want to use the word tragedy, but calamities, these terrible things. And my parents had never experienced this level of violence. They didn't know how to react. And when they found out how violent my childhood on the south side of Chicago was, they were shocked. My father, he loved my brother and I's stories as two big dudes from the south side of Chicago. He loved our stories, but at the same time, they terrified him. Oh, my brother got jumped. I got jumped. I've been beaten up in an alley by three guys at once. Like them holding me and taking turns beating the fuck out of me. So that level of violence, they never dealt with. They didn't really know about it either when my brother and I were kids. These stories started to come out later as we were growing up more. And my brother and I were really close. He was 2 years younger than me, so we were very, very close. So my mom at one point felt bad. She's like, Jesus, I had no idea how violent it was. I'm like, oh, we didn't tell you.
That must have especially hurt just because they probably saw it as a reflection of their parenting when it really didn't have much to do with them. It's just geography.
When Michelle was murdered, I was destroyed. I was absolutely destroyed. He didn't know what to do. I was angry. I wasn't really pleasant to be around.
Yeah, you're going through something. Yeah, that's a pretty big something.
And the kind of anger and pain that you're in, it short circuits certain things. Like when you're in that much pain, you're not hearing the other person's pain. My father had adult onset diabetes, and he also had terrible arthritis. And he had a degenerative disc disorder where his discs between his vertebrae were disintegrating. And so he was in a lot of pain. And I watched pain warp my father. I watched how much it changed him as a person. And so I realized that I was going through that, and the pain that I was in was warping me. You're lucky you're talking to me now. I'm the nicest person of Hart Fisher there's ever been since I was 16.
No, believe it or not, divide those symptoms evenly in half. That's exactly what my parents have. My father is diabetic, and my mother has that degenerative disc disease. She's had 2 surgeries on it. Neither of them helped her very much, and she's riddled with arthritis.
And the surgeries don't help. The surgeries don't help at all. So when I say our alpha lipoic acid, I say take that because it helps all your ligaments. It helps all of your collagen. It helps all the connective tissue with your organs. So I would say to the people listening at home, definitely get yourself some R-alpha lipoic acid. That goes a long way. And it also helps with inflammation of the joints. that's part of my anger with the medical establishment with what happened with my mother. I felt she had several more good years left in her, and she was about ready to move in with me. That's what was going on. Her health was getting to that point where my friends were all teasing me. Hey, you ready to be the 50-year-old single guy with your mom and her cats?
So be it, man. That's your mom.
So be it. Yeah, it's my mom. So my mom was getting ready to move in with me. And it was a big deal because she was going to give up some of her independence. But at the same time, my life is a lot of fun. And I include my family in the fun. I feel that to be a narcissist would be boring. I like the team. I like everybody on stage. I like everybody getting their moment. That's kind of my jam. I'm excited by sharing the spotlight. I don't have to be the sole guy. And
It's
so
kind
I've
of
done
like that expression, a rising tide lifts all ships.
Yeah, it does. And I believe in that energy. I've seen it go up and down, and I've been lucky enough that I've had a lot of people in Hollywood share their stories with me. And so I've been blessed enough to have a guy like fucking Danzig in my corner giving me advice on how to handle my business. And dude, should I sue Gerard Way over his plagiarism of my fucking poetry for his lyrics of My Chemical Romance? Hell yeah. That's how I made half my money. Uh-huh. So as we talk, and when you get this show on the air, I know there's going to be some kids out there that hear this show, and that's the thing they need to hear.
Yeah, and that's the pay it forward of making art in general, making something from the soul.
Yes, definitely, without a doubt. I mean, I'm pretty selfish in what I'm doing when I'm an artist. When I'm writing, oh, go fuck yourself. I'm writing this story. Do you want to write a story? Write your own fucking story, fuckface. I'm writing this story. So when I am creating for myself, I'm very, very selfish. But on the other end, I'm a professional. And you talk to your client or your customer and you're like, well, what do you want me to do? And that's how it was with me and Danzig when I co-wrote a Taste of Cherry in Veronica 4 that was seized as obscene material in Oklahoma City in 1995. And Glenn saw something in the story I did not see. This is a 10-page story about a snuff film and a gang rape and like torture porn. So to me, growing up in horror, this story was nothing new. It was nothing bad. It was like anything I haven't read in fucking 15 other fucking places at this point in time. You know what I'm saying? Like I've been reading Stephen King since Carrie, and King's stuff has got some really dark shit in there. And so does my dad was a big Mickey Spillane fan, and I read his Mickey Spillane books, and those are hardcore. And I read, all the comics, and I just devoured everything I could get my hands on. And so when I became a writer and when I started writing my work, I didn't know what people were so upset about. Didn't you read Swamp Thing from Alan Moore and Stephen Bissett and Rick Veitch? Got some pretty creepy shit in there, just like that. And I didn't understand what they were freaking out about. I honestly think part of what happened to me, they came at me. I was young, right out of college, white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy, and I wouldn't say I was sorry. I'm like, I'm not sorry. I didn't do anything wrong. And it became a grudge match over them trying to force me. I think this comes back to what you were saying about making the black guys wear a dress.
The humiliation ritual.
Yeah. What is a humiliation ritual? Like, when you say that, what do you mean?
It's you showing that you recognize that there's someone above you and that you're willing to debase yourself in order to reach fame.
So it's you're willing to debase yourself in the face of their power.
Yeah. It's kind of showing that you'll play ball, so to speak.
Because in the martial arts world that I'm from, part of it is that guy needs an attitude adjustment. Caro, take him out on the mat. Adjust that motherfucker's attitude.
Yeah.
That's done to me.
Well, I think it comes down to is like you're in our world and you got to play by our rules or there's no play.
Well, for me, what happened was I stole Gene LaBelle's punchline. Gene would do this thing where, okay, you're in class and they demonstrate a technique, right? So you're going to show the class a technique, and then they would say, hey, who wants to feel this? And you would go volunteer to have the technique put on you, because how the fuck are you going to do this to somebody if you don't know what it feels like? So Gene had a thing where he'd get you, and he'd get you, it's called a submission hold. And you're in the submission hold, and it hurts. It's not fun. And he'd go, who's best looking? And until you started tapping, Uncle Gene, Uncle Gene, Uncle Gene, he'd keep torturing you. And well, one time Gene had me out there and I was the dummy and I skipped his setup and I stole the punchline. I went right to Gene's best looking, Gene's best looking. That motherfucker got furious. His face changed. He got mad as fuck. And then he took me through rhythm training where he ties up just about everything you have and you're still trying to tap for desperate light because this stuff hurts and you don't know if it's going to break. And you're just trusting to God and the fact that Gene Bell's a ninth degree black belt that he's not going to break something.
You're in good hands. They're the hands that'll hurt you, but hopefully he knows what he's doing.
Hopefully. And so he did. He tied me up and he fucking had me. And I never stole his punchline again ever.
Oof, what a lesson.
And I'm not mad. Do I sound like I'm mad?
No, because
Do I sound like I hold it against him that Gene did this? I don't hold it against him at all. So the stuff like that you're saying with this volunteering for debasement, I think that's a little different.
Yeah.
I didn't volunteer to be debased by Gene, and I don't feel that Gene debased me. It hurt, but nothing got broke.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, a big thing in this world of social media where folks aren't making the differentiation between butt hurt versus I broke my arm. And there's a difference. And I think you can see it even in the horror movies, you know. Dude, those Terrifier movies are nasty.
They really are, man. They're intense.
They're really nasty. That guy, Damien Leone, his first short, the very first one with Art the Clown, is on American Horror from 2008.
Get out, really?
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like it.
And that's one of those things where, like, he might not have had the ability to create those movies without getting that approval first.
Well, I wouldn't call it approval, just encouragement. And you're amongst your peers, and you're seeking out your like, and you're trying to meet people that'll help you facilitate making a movie or making a book or making a band. And you're looking for people that can help you, and you're confused because you don't know what the fuck you're doing. I spent a lot of time in Hollywood just like a pinball, bang, bang, bang. What the hell am I doing now? Bang, bang, bang. You know, oh, don't sign that contract. So that's part of what I really like about American Horror, watching the progression of the artist. And it's the same in the dojo, like training with martial artists and seeing people get better. And for me, a lot of times in the dojo, I'm like, blessed that I got to have that. I got to be a part of that, and I got to have them as friends. And I grew up, you know, single mom. I'm a product of divorce, and I guess you could say I come from a broken home. And I got lucky, though, that my father was still involved in my life. Like, the divorce happened, but they were still in my life. They cared. He didn't go nowhere. I stayed with my father every weekend. And he loved us. He loved me and my brother. Because he was little. He was not big, okay? I'm 6'2". I'm 235 pounds. I come from sturdy Midwestern stock. I'm thick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Big chest, broad shoulders. I'm blessed in that. And then my brother, he's like an inch shorter than me, but an inch wider. And he has no hair. So my brother, I'm the big hairy lion, and Adam has no hair, no eyelashes, no eyebrows.
Oh, wow. Complete alopecia?
Yeah, complete alopecia. No, nothing. Armpit hair, nothing.
I bet he's a sight walking down the sidewalk. No disrespect.
No, he is. He looks like central casting for White Supremacy 101, except no Nazi crosses or anything. But he has been mistaken for a Nazi just because of his bald head, blue eyes, and because he doesn't have eyebrows, his eyes jump out of his head. He's got really intense blue eyes. And we were buddies, like we were a duo. One point in LA at the advertising agency I worked, I got Adam to stop doing the body shop stuff. I was worried about his health because I knew that the paint was toxic and I didn't want him to get hurt. So I got him to come out to LA with me, and I got him involved in graphic design and working at the advertising agency and doing box design for like Vivid Video. Well, we weren't doing Vivid at this agency. We were doing like Max Hardcore, Randy West, Up and Comers, all that kind of stuff. And the guys in the office called us the Chicago Brothers because we would go do shows. We were pals. We had a bad falling out at one point. He went his way and I went my way, but it doesn't mean I don't love the guy. We did a lot of crazy shit together. And I miss him. I don't know if I trust him, but I do miss him. And I know he misses me. We had a lot of fun together.
Well, I remember during
A
our
lot of
last
adventures.
episode, you said that you were dividing up furniture.
Yeah, my mom passed. And so we've got our childhood home. And he knows me. He knows I'm not a dick. He knows I'm not a dick. He knows I'm not an asshole. So, you know what I mean? When you kind of you go through life and you really know somebody and you're like, I don't have to worry about that. He's not a dick.
Well, siblings, you have rapport. You've seen each other through almost everything.
Well, I think my brother and I were a lot closer than most siblings I knew. I really do. I think that he and I, okay, do you have brothers?
No, only child, actually.
All right. So when you've got brothers or sisters, I knew this as brothers. A lot of times my friends, their idea of fun was to pick on their little brother, and they'd have their buddies over and they'd fuck with their little brother. And so my friends would want to come over to the house and they would want to fuck with my little brother. And I didn't like that. So I didn't participate. I wouldn't let them fuck with my brother.
Yeah. I've been on the receiving end of some of that too. Just because, growing up, you have friends that have older and younger brothers, and it's more of that pecking order bullshit.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So with him, we also went through a lot of crazy stuff together. We loved our dad and our mom back then. After the divorce, my mother was in a darker place, and it took her a long time to come out of it. Years of therapy, and part of the problem too, my father got remarried, and in his new marriage, he was really happy because my parents were not happy together. So their divorce was actually a good thing. It was a really good thing. And I would say this to people that are afraid of divorce. Sometimes it's better if you split apart than if you stay together miserable, because that misery is a swamp. Everything. It stains everything. And so my father went and they got their divorce, and he talked to me about his anger at how all of his friends from his marriage turned their back on him when they got divorced. Not one single one of these dudes that he'd been hanging out with and going to Indian YMCA guides with me and my bro and their kids, they closed ranks on him and ostracized him. And he had talked about his pain over that. And then I saw him make an entire new group of friends after the divorce. When he passed, those were the motherfuckers at the funeral. Those friends that he made in his 30s and 40s. Those were the guys that really loved him. I had to give my father's eulogy. When my father passed, I was a mess. I sat and I stared at my father's corpse for 40 minutes and I disappeared. I was gone. To me, it was 5 minutes. And people would come near me and they'd ricochet off like a force field. And then no one would get up and do his eulogy. They were all so upset. They were all so broken down. They were all so beat up. I went up there and I was breaking down, man. I would go to pick up my head and start talking, and then I would shut off like a robot. And I could tell the audience was starting to freak out because they knew I'm already crazy.
Yeah.
I'm already nuts. I'm already known as the nuttiest, most honest motherfucker. I'm the most honest motherfucker. When you've had the entire world lie about you, you can only cling to your truth in the ocean of lies. In their sea of bullshit and distortion, the only fucking thing you could cling to is your truth. You know it's true because you're living it. So I'm up there and I'm breaking down, and I just channeled my father. I impersonated him. I'm a mimic. I can do that. I do that all the time. And so I got hey, Bob Dodier, you jag off. I just started channeling my father, and I just started talking to the audience as Fred. And I started making his friend come up. Patricia, you big piece of shit. Get the fuck up here. I know you got a story or two. Get up here right now. And I talked to all his buddies like Fred. But these guys loved him. So when I went up there and impersonated him, I turned it into a party. And I made it a celebration.
And I think that is the best thing to celebrate at a funeral. It should celebrate life more than mourn the death. I mean, you kind of have to do both.
I agree completely. And you want to celebrate life, and especially since I know I'm buried so many motherfucking people. It is about life. It is about this moment. Like, okay, I've got this cute little blonde sitting there in this other room.
I think that's something as Americans we need to start recognizing. Tim Dillon has a great rant about it. For most of human history, things have not gone this well for people. And even on your shittiest day, it's still a lot better than most people's lives. Like every time you walk into a place that has marble tile, there's blood on that marble. Someone had to bleed for there to be that
That's
level
true.
of luxury in a place. The fact that
Every
you're not
fucking
ripped apart
Tesla.
at night by wild dogs is a great thing.
Every Tesla's built with slave labor and pollute.
The phones, the screens,
All the iPhones,
every single thing
slave
in
labor.
this room. Yeah. Immeasurable amounts of human suffering.
Dude, we're talking horror here, right? We're talking horror. We're talking about these silly little movies. While we know that the Israelis are fucking murdering Palestinians, and we know that the Ukrainians are getting fucking wrecked right now over some political bullshit and dying, and I'm just grateful that I'm sitting here. I'm on the phone with you. I'm having a really nice conversation. I'm enjoying myself immensely. I've got my TV channel playing on my left here. I'm sitting in my goddamn bathroom. I had a really bad day with PTSD. So I've been having attacks roll through me all day. So I'm grateful to be at peace in my robe, drinking my rum and coke and having this nice conversation and knowing I've got food in the fridge and I've got clean water at my pipe there. And I'm grateful, man. I'm grateful as fuck.
And I'm sorry to hear that, man. That fucking sucks. I know I can't really give any reconciliation for that, but
About what?
just the PTSD, the shit you've been going through today. I don't like hearing my buddy has a bad day. That fucking sucks. But you know what?
Here's
Like,
the thing.
there's highs and lows, and at the end of the day, it's still a good life.
It's a great life. It's a fantastic life. I'm blessed. I have a amazing life. And okay, I've got this PTSD, but I've also got this strength that other people don't have. I have this power and I have this ability to soldier through shit. It's why the military guys like me. We'll crawl through the shit together.
Yeah.
And my one buddy, the Sarge, he went through a terrible divorce and he came out and I'm like, dude, stay with me. Come stay with me. Get out of your situation. Come over with me. And so he did. And he's a war vet. And man, we both had our PTSD sessions, you know, and he had a Ring camera on his door and he could see like the dude that his wife cheated on him
Oh,
with
Jesus.
going up. Oh God, that's so terrible. And me and my buddy Trike are sitting here with like, that's rough, dude. That is tough, man. He's petting the dog. Oh God. He's petting your dog? Oh, fuck.
Dude, that was one of the most sour things I've ever fucking heard. Ugh.
He came out and he stayed with me, and you know, there were moments where I could tell, like, he was in his PTSD hole in his bedroom, and I was in my PTSD hole, and we both crawled into our holes. And then when we were ready, we would come out. We would come out and hang out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You got to uplift people.
He's hanging out. This is a great story. I got to say this. This is fucking funny. We're sitting there, and he's got the remote control, and this buddy of mine, he sounds like Hank Hill if Hank Hill had shot a motherfucker in the face. He's 6'4". He's also a martial arts knucklehead. And we're in my living room. He's like, I don't know who gave him the remote control to the cable box. And he's like, hey, Saving Private Ryan, why don't we watch Saving Private Ryan and see how long it takes to tip off my PTSD? You're like, no, man, no, let's not do that. Okay, we're watching. Here we go. But he was fine. That's the joy of humanity. That's the joy of all of it.
Yeah, sometimes your worst moments
And him
can lead
knowing
to
he
some of
could
your
fuck with
best
me.
moments.
Yeah, like that shit with Gina Bell adjusting my attitude out there. I'm not kidding. That hurt like fuck, and I was scared I might get hurt, but I was just trusting that my sensei wasn't going to break something on me. But I was scared. And I was just like, please, God, help me out here.
Yeah.
And I'd never seen him hurt nobody else. I'd been training there for a long time. And it wasn't like I saw any instructor ego hurt somebody at all.
Yeah, he had to kind of give you a little shot across the bow.
He had to. It was all good. It was all fun.
It's part of it.
I think it's crazy that I think that's fun.
Well, it is fun.
That I think that's fun.
It's scary, but it's fun because you were truly alive in that moment.
Definitely alive, and I feel that way even now. I'm really, really grateful for what I have in my life. I'm super grateful for all of it, even the tragedy, even some of the negativity. I wouldn't be this person. The woman I'm dating, I couldn't be a good guy for her if I hadn't gone through this stuff. I couldn't be the guy that she fell in love with if I had not gone through this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's everything that makes you. You can't just take away all the pain and expect to be the same person.
Yeah, and she's been through a lot in her life, so she has been prepared in a way to handle a guy like me. And then I've been through stuff, so I can handle a woman like her. She's 33 years old, grown ass fucking woman. You know what I mean? That's something too that I think in our society and what we're dealing with is a lot of times we're not able to understand, like, hey guys, it's adult time now.
Yeah.
It's adult time.
Well, the infantilization of people lately has been so crazy. We went to Disney World a couple months back, and just the amount of people that are just so willing to lose themselves in a fantasy it's kind of disturbing. Not that anybody can't enjoy
Well, do you think it's
their
because
media.
they need it?
Yeah, it's just because reality is too harsh.
You said you're 34, right?
Yeah.
All right. So for myself, I grew up without all of the social media, right? And so what I see is you have this device that is really hard to get away from that just keeps feeding you bad news. Landslide in Ukraine. Oh, flood in Italy. Look at all these motherfuckers drown in India. Drown. Oh my God. Because that's the world. I mean, that's life. I mean,
it's never going to stop. There's never going to be a day where, like, you know what? Everything was absolutely fine everywhere.
Everything was perfect, and I got a cheese Danish.
It's not going to happen.
It doesn't work that way. No, it's not going to happen.
And your mind's not meant to work that way either.
We're not meant to take in this much information. It's part of why I've been shutting down on my social media. I'm only using it to communicate. It has been great for friends. For me, doing comic books and doing comic conventions, that's like summer camp friends. You're with your summer camp friends in this really intense fall period of immersion, and then you go away and you come back and you're in this engaged immersion. So they're camp friends, but they're Uber camp friends. And you see them. I'm going to see them in Detroit. I'm going to see them in New York. I'm going to see them in San Francisco. You're going to be on the road with these guys. And when you're on the road, you do need a friendly face. You do need somebody you could trust. I've had some really scary moments on the road where I was afraid for my life. There are moments where I was in a hotel room with a couple grand in the room and I knew people knew I was there. It was scary.
Yeah. You never know who's going to knock on that door.
Well, I had that happen. I've been jumped. My life is pretty crazy, isn't it?
Man, every time we have one of these episodes, I'm in awe, honestly. You've lived an incredible life.
Yeah, it feels pretty good, man. And I think your show is solid. Like, I'm really enjoying the conversation we're having here. It feels like very much like a good, Jesus Christ, it's a 4-hour Joe Rogan marathon.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a big old episode.
It affects things. My energy on your radio show affects things. There's going to be somebody, man. There's going to be somebody that really needs to hear this show. They're going to get advice, and they're going to really, really be grateful they heard this. It's a good thing. I can feel the energy. I can really feel the energy. And I really think there's going to be some kids out there that are going through some stuff, and they're going to hear this, and it's going to help them.
It's why I do it, honestly. Just to show someone it's okay to do something you want, and also to just put something out in the world that's genuine and from the soul. Because as time goes on, as AI art becomes more prominent, it's only going to become more and more rare.
What's going to happen is AI will become corporate. It'll be like Coca-Cola commercials with polar bear. That's what AI is going to be. And the trick is going to be they're going to use it to sell stuff. They're going to use AI to trick old people into buying shares of, well, I got a bridge in Brooklyn. That's where AI is going. AI is empty.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to naturally drive people away from certain things? Like, do you think the inhumanity of it's going to be repellent to people?
Is McDonald's repellent to people?
Oh, fuck, you're right. God damn it.
Have you ever read a book about the psychology of McDonald's?
I haven't, but I'm sure it's sinister as fuck.
All right. You've heard of the movie. The movie was called Fast Food Nation. But the movie is shit. It has nothing to do with the book. Read the book. Read Fast Food Nation. Everybody out there at home, read Fast Food Nation. Read the book. The book. And it talks all about how Ray Kroc built this and how McDonald's got built, the invention of the Happy Meal, how psychologists, child psychologists were brought in to brand the Happy Meal so you would create a consumer for life. That is where the Happy Meal came from. And it's part of what I said about American horrors, and I've said this over and over, and I know Disney's listening to me. because I've said it. I'm going to own you from the cradle to the grave, motherfucker.
Get 'em young.
I'm horror. I will own you from the cradle to the grave because horror never leaves you. Well, on that note, brother, we should probably wrap this thing up.
Yeah.
I've got a pretty little thing that needs a spanking.
Hey, thank you for coming on again, brother. I really appreciate it.
This stuff helps me sort out my own mind, man. It helps me figure out my own shit, too. So this really worked. I had a very good conversation with you.
I feel bad being so quiet, too, because listening to you talk, it just sends me into my own head and has me reevaluate my own experiences.
Well, isn't that what we do for each other?
Yeah, I think that's what we do in the act of storytelling.
Dean did it for me. Danzig did it for me. I mean, all these people that are like buzzwords, they're just people. We're all very, very much the same. And I found that out from hanging out with famous people, rich people, poor people.
Thanks for coming on. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Can't wait to do it again.
Good times, man. All right, I'm off. I'm going to go spank that ass.
Now those were some frightfully fun stories. Howdy everybody, it's me, your host Danny, and I wanted to let you in on something special. You might have noticed that when I introduce the show, I say we are the Hometown Horrors Podcast. That's because there will always be at least 3 people in each episode. Me, the person who wants to hear a good story, the guest, the teller of a good story, and you, the listener, that takes that story and carries it with you out into the world. And we make up a special kind of trinity. We are the Hometown Horrors Podcast. And if you ever want to graduate from listener to guest, reach out to us via our handle on Instagram, hometown_horrors_podcast. Our email is thehometownhorrorspodcast, no spaces, @gmail.com, or via text or phone call at 571-358-8880, which FYI is not my personal number, but give it a ring. I'll get back to you, because if there's anything I've learned from doing the podcast is that everybody has a story, and that story deserves to be heard. On your number one source for the most spine-tingling, gut-wrenching, insomnia-inducing stories around, the Hometown Horrors Podcast.